Hey, in this video, we're going to be looking at trigonometry again, but we're focusing on two triangles within geometry. This is more of a geometric view, but it's a very important skill we're going to learn by the end of this video that we're going to need to just have down for the rest of this course and future courses as in calculus and upper level math. So, in geometry, you first examine two triangles, the 45-45-90 and the 30-60-90 right triangles. And you look at where each of these come from. So this 45-45-90 triangle comes from taking a square and looking at half of a square. And then the 30-60-90 comes from an equilateral triangle that's been cut down the altitude. All right, so that's where like each of these are coming from in the geometric sense. The uniqueness of this triangle is that when the legs are 1, the hypotenuse will always be the square root of 2. That's the uniqueness of this triangle. That's why we consider it to be special. And then the uniqueness of this 30-60-90 triangle is when the hypotenuse is 2, the side opposite of the 30 degrees is going to be 1, and then our side adjacent to the 30 is going to be square root of 3. Always. So with this, why are we looking at this again? It is going to be expected by the end of this video that we know without using a calculator or really looking at a picture to know what the sign of 30, 60, 45, what the sign of that will equal, cosine, tangent, and the others as well. All right. So let's just begin by doing this as we've done before. So sine of 45. So we recall sines opposite hypotenuse. So 1 over the square root of 2. And we have learned how to what's called rationalize the denominator. So that's rewriting this without a square root in the denominator. In doing so, multiplying the top and bottom by the square root of 2, we can rewrite this as the square root of 2 as the square root of 4, or just 2. Okay? So sine of 45 equals the square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 45, adjacent over hypotenuse, 1 over square root of 2, which we know to be, again, square root of 2 divided by 2. All right? Tangent of 45. Tangent of 45 is opposite over adjacent, 1 divided by 1. Hey, it's going to be, I think, 1. That's nice. That's going to be easy to remember. Tangent of 45 is 1. And then so we have cosecant of 45. Well, I just look at sine and you look at the reciprocal, so square root of 2 over 1, or just the square root of 2. Secant of 45, same thing, square root of 2 over 1, or just the square root of 2. And then cotangent of 45, well, tangent of 45 is 1, the reciprocal of 1 is still 1. So in terms of what you have to memorize, if we can memorize the initial 3, we can get the reciprocals quite quickly, okay? So we have here, really since they're both 45 degrees, we have the ratios for our 45-45-90 triangle. And then let's look at the 30-60-90. So say sine of 30. So opposite of 30 is 1. Hypotenuse is 2. Good. Cosine of 30. It's adjacent, okay, over hypotenuse. This does not need rationalized because the square root is in the numerator. If it's in the numerator, we're fine. And tangent of 30, opposite over adjacent. So I multiply the top by the square root of 3. Get square root of 3 again. And I get square root of 9, or just 3. And from this, we can write the reciprocals. Cosecant of 30, 2 over 1. The secant of 30, 2 over the square root of 3. And if you rationalize it, it becomes 2 square root of 3 over 3. And then cotangent of 30, well, this is 2 over 1, so cotangent of 30, I'm sorry, right here, it's 1 over square root of 3, so cotangent of 30 would be square root of 3 over 1, or just square root of 3. Again, if you know these initial three, you can find the others. So I challenge you, find, go ahead and write down the ratios for 60 degrees. Go ahead and write those down. I want you to keep in mind something with both of these, with all of this. Keep in mind, because we're now examining angles measures in two forms, that 30 degrees in radians is pi over 6. 45 degrees in radians is pi over 4. And 60 degrees in radians is pi over 3. All right, so just keep that in mind as we go through this. These are going to be common angles that we use with the trig ratios. But right now, I would like to share with you a way of memorizing all of these ratios using my left hand. Are you ready for this? So, on my hand, I'm going to write certain angle measures. So I'm going to write 0 on my pinky, 30, 45, 60, and then 90 on my thumb. So these angle measures will always be on those fingers, starting with 0, going with our special angles, all the way up to 90. And how we can, how this helps us know the values for these special angles is, let's say I want the sine or cosine of one of these angles. I'm going to say, let's say we have sine of 45. So sine of 45, I place my finger down. Sine, when I place the finger down, sine is the lower half. So I see two fingers. So I take the square root of 2 and divide it always by 2. So according to this, the sine of 45 is square root of 2 divided by 2. So where sine's the lower half, cosine's the upper half. So if I want the cosine of 45, cosine of 45, square root of 2 over 2. So what about the sine of 30? So the sine of 30 should be, we know it's going to be 1 over 2. Sine of 30, square root of 1, which is 1, over 2. Let me get it. Whereas cosine of 30 would be the upper half. So cosine of 30 would be the square root of 3 over 2. You see that works there. So let's check your values for 60 degrees. So if I have, let's say sine of 60, sine's lower half. Sine of 60 we should have found to be the square root of 3 over 1. Cosine of 60, square root of 1 over 2, or 1/2. How do we do with that? So what about tangents? We can get sine from the lower half, cosine from the upper half. Tangent, we close our finger, flip over, so let's take tangent of 45. Tangent of 45 on the other side of our hand. And then as you notice, we take the square root of the upper and the lower half. So the tangent of 45 should be the square root of 2 over the square root of 2, or just 1. So let's try tangent of 30. Tangent of 30 is 1 over the square root of 3. Let's see. So it's 30, square root of 30, sorry, tangent of 30, square root of 1 over the square root of 3, which is what we got. Lastly, tangent of 60. Tangent of 60 we find to be square root of 3 over square root of 1, or just square root of 3. So this is how we can use our hand to find our basic 3 trig ratios. Now 0 and 90 we're going to examine further later on, but if I can find sine, cosine, and tangent, then we can also find the reciprocal functions from that. So you always have your hand with you, knowing how to place your angle measures, and we can use this to know our values.